and girls, thank you very much for being here to our first Mixing Elevator live show. And at first, I want to say thank you for Steinberg for making this possible. And thank you to all of you who have submitted songs. We have almost received 100 songs, which was really crazy to work through. And yeah, I look forward today to work with one song from the Caribbean, produced by Avery Cecilia. I hope I pronounce his name right. And yeah, I picked this song because it's quite good for first song. It's very balanced. It's quite a good mix. But despite of that, I can show you what to look at and what to make out of it to get it into the mastering process. And yeah, let's just right away swap to the Wavelab window. And this is the song actually. What we can do first is looking at the analysis, the global analysis. We see that it lives at minus 15.7 LUFS. Let me get to that in a second, but we want to look to the peaks, and the peaks are a little bit over. So we have plus 2.5-ish, 2.7-ish true peak overs. And it's a good luck that it's a 32-bit floating point file, so that the overs are not cut away, not truncated, so they can be kept back into the visible area, basically. We are going to do that by simply normalizing that, peak normalizing. But considering that we have almost 4 dB of headroom, we can say we have minus 19.7 LUFS. And as a general recommendation, I always teach my students at Mastering Academy, my mixing students, to mix 3 dB lower than the level they want to have after the mastering. So I want my mixing students to first think about, so what kind of genre is it? What kind of distribution platforms do we have? Do we want to distribute it on? And let's say if it should be good for radio, if it should be good for CD, if it should be good for online distribution, something like minus 9 LUFS for some genres like hip-hop to minus 12 LUFS for pop, or even minus 13, 14 LUFS for jazz, is a good after-mastering distribution loudness. It depends a little bit on the genre and on what kind of, if you make electronic music, you most likely want to be louder, particularly when you want to distribute that to DJs. Then unfortunately it requires to be louder. So first you need to define how loud you want to be after the mastering, and then you add 3 dB on top of that. For your mixing loudness. So if you want to have it, let's say minus 12 for this genre is quite fine for distribution. It's reggae, it's wonderful reggae from the Caribbean, and thus minus 15 would be a good mixing level. So the reason for that is that it may happen during the process of mastering when your mix is very spiky, and as you can see here, it's quite spiky, and the majority of spikes here are, let's say, useless. I call them stupid spikes. Stupid spikes are spikes which are just technical spikes but make no musical excitement, so that they are not important for, ooh, that's a great special stroke from the drum or whatsoever. It's not meaningful in terms of musical information. It's just a technical spike, so we want to control that already in the mixing stage and forget about all the videos you've seen on YouTube where people would say, yeah, deliver at -6 dB peak headroom, blah, blah, blah. The important thing is that you don't overdo limiting, which is here definitely not done, which is great. But you want to control your stuff so that you make yourself working a little bit harder to control everything and to achieve the loudness you want to have, because things are going to change. So there's a high risk, in this case not, but usually and most often there's a high risk if I need to control the peaks down from top in order to make it loud enough in the mastering process. And this may cause changed balance proportions and the color of the kick, color of the snare, etc. pp. And you want to avoid that, and you don't want to be disappointed from the mastering process, basically. And it's pretty easy in the mastering process to put 3 dB on top of it when the mix is quite balanced and you have a controlled peak structure. And you have a higher chance to get the same mix back, just mastered, just sounding greater and deeper and more controlled, etc. pp, more unified. So these are the things we are going to do in the mastering process. So let me first go to the montage. So here you see the original untouched mix. Here's an original copy of the mix. I'm going to open this copy here. And then I'm going to apply loudness, peak normalization. Always stereo link, please. -6 dB is a good starting value. The loudness will be a little bit too small to hit it into an analog chain, so I show you how you deal with that. I recommend to always use the same peak normalization level. So habits are a good thing, so that you don't need to think, oh, what have I done the last time in the mastering process whatsoever. So, and you can see, look at this things which are truncated here. So they are definitely going over the border, and it's going, I can first do a -1 dB thing. And you see it's coming back here. The information is coming back. Let me now do a -6 dB because it's my habit. And here we go. And this would be my source track, basically, I will use to build up the whole thing. But let's first listen a little bit. For this sake, I'm going to reduce the level by 3 dB here so that we don't have overs when I play it through. You can see the master chain is muted and nothing is overdriven here. We're going to listen briefly into the mix to give you an idea what we have to deal with today.
Canticati pa mi mamá, pa escuchar en mi voz cuánto me estimé. Mi ta dedica y cantica aquí pa mi mamá, pa escuchar en mi voz cuánto me estimé.
What you can see is that it already sounds quite balanced, but the ability of a mastering engineer and an advanced professional listener, you can learn that over time, is to develop the ability to have a sound imagination. How can it sound when it's ready? And I already have that here in my mind. And I want to first start with something to help you to verify whether your mix is mastering ready or not. So I play it, and a new little nice thingy here in Wavelab, in the montage, in the inspector. You find that in the inspector area here. I need to move away from this corner, basically, is this output filter thing. You can basically alter these filters to your hello. The dialogue pops into the way here. Here we go. Here's the section where you can define the borders, the crossovers of the filters. And I have changed that a little bit from the default thing to, for my opinion, more meaningful thing. So the low pass area is from 0 to 180 hertz. I picked that because it integrates basically the drum and at least the first octave of the bass, the lowest octave and probably one above. So we can check the bass area, the coherence of the bass area. So I call this check, FBI checking method. So it stands for frequency band integrity. What we want to check on, or what we can use this tool for, is to check whether the bands are internally in a good shape. It requires a little bit of exercise and experience, but it helps you to demask the other stuff so that you can focus on a particular band and probably figure out, ooh, damn, my kick is way louder as the bass, or vice versa, or in the low mid-range, my acoustic guitars make while my sound of the vocal sounds, like this. So no, low mid-range, you don't want to have that. So you want to have a balance in the different bands. And to continue here, the next band would be from 180 to 350. This is what I would call the lower mid-range mumbling area. It's an area which needs a good portion of information to provide you with warmth. But if it's overdone, it creates masking and it creates a unpleasant feel of the song. So the song feels a little bit caged by this low mid frequency mumbling if it's too much. So, and if you listen to that, you want to listen to the balance of the different things in this frequency area. If there's one predominating instrument which is louder or lower than the other, are they in a good balance to each other? Because the whole thing is, when in all the different bands you would have a good balance between the instruments, you have quite some power in the mastering process. So a mix with a good frequency band integrity is very mastering ready, while a mix where, for example, you have super harsh cymbals doing like this and the lead vocal is like this, then you can't manage to make the lead vocal sit on top of the whole thing and cut through, etc., because the cymbals would drive you nuts at that time. To continue, the next band would be from 350 to 1.2K. This is also a very important mid-range area. And it's basically, I went to 1200 hertz because when we continue here from 1200 to 4K, this is the area where you would find hip hoppers usually make a lot of slip noises, and the slip noises go crazy in this area. You find in this area a lot of distortion from bad microphones, from bad mic preamps, from aliasing, from bad plug-in chains on your vocals, etc. And then you have this thing going on, and this is living under the hood probably at minus 60 or 70 dB, but it's still in the mastering process we make everything a little bit louder and more controlled, and then all of a sudden you think, oh damn, it's a little bit hurting or piercing in the ears. You don't want to have this piercing, so you want to control this area. And then basically from 4K to infinite to Nyquist, it's the highs and the air, basically, both together, because I don't have more bands, but it's sufficient. And in this area, you find the sibilants, you find the hi-hat, you find the top strainer of the snare, you find a little bit of the kick beater portion, but the kick beater portion lives more in this area, in this band, between 1200 and 4K. So this being said, I just want to make a quick check here and toggling through the bands and give you some comments here. So let's start with the low. As it's reggae, kick is on 2 and 4, and you could think the kick is too low, but here in this particular case, you need to understand that the producer made a wide decision to make the kick a little bit higher, give it a lot of beater portion, and let the bass have the sub and low frequency area basically alone, so that the bass makes the bass and the kick is a little bit higher in this case. Sometimes you make other decisions. You want to have a big boom kick, which goes to the pretty low 30 hertz area, and the bass would play in the higher area a little bit. Or when both instruments are in the same area, you would work with sidechain compression on the bass, which is driven from the kick. You know that kind of tricks basically to mess around with it, but you want to make conscious decisions as a producer and mixing engineer. Anyway, next is our low mid mumbling area. And you can see there's enough warmth from the vocal in this area, and you have enough instruments which would provide the song with a good portion of warmth. So now we come to the mid-range, to the real mid-range area, which is most important for to have a good balance here, so that people can hear it on smartphones and this stupid Bluetooth loudspeakers, etc. It needs to work in the mids here. And that's also quite a good balance. Here is the harshness area. If this is not instantly piercing, like it's fine. It's as said, it's a quite good production. Also a good balance here between the sibilant area of the singer. No crazy sibilants, fortunately. You nowadays hear that even on the radio, like you think, what the heck is up here? Songs with crazy amounts of sibilants. I don't like that. So sibilants need good treatment, but this is another completely other chapter. So what we can see is we have a good frequency band integrity here, thus we can enter into mastering process. And so I have prepared something. As I said before, due to this high amount of present peaks here, for example, just this one peak, it's probably coming from a tom. Let's play it. Yeah, it's not that there's something going louder. It's just a stupid peak. You know, nobody needs such a peak. Thus, we actually want to control it in the mixing, but let's now control it here. So what I've done, because it was peak normalized to -6, means if I go to +6 input here, nothing is going to happen. So I need to go to +8 in order to bite away at 2 dB of this stupid peak. And you can see that if I play it here, nothing is happening in terms of gain reduction, but here it will pop up and yeah. Yeah, what's this tom? Right? This guy here. And I have now decreased the output level not to my initial -6 dB of peak headroom, just to -4 dB, because there's still a lot of peaky things going on, which makes, yeah, which provides not enough energy to feed it into my chain. I want to have a decent energy. The rule of thumb is an average, or like the average of -18 dB RMS is a good level to hit analog gear. I don't work with my outboard gear. I have plenty of tools here, but I stick into the box today for you. But tools, you can see I've used the Fairchild. It's an analog modeling. So the modeling, the digital version behaves as an equivalent almost to the hardware. So if you hit it too slow, with too little level, it's not in the right working action. If you hit it with a too hot level, it's also not in the right working action. You need to take care of that. So this is just going to make the whole thing 4 dB louder. And yeah, now we have sufficient level to deal with it. We can look at that 1 second. Okay, you could see that here basically. Oops. You could see that here basically. This is short term now. Short term is a little bit lower than RMS. I was a little bit under -18 RMS. LUFS short term, which means I'm quite fine for. I could have toggled here to RMS mode, but I was too lazy for that. So anyway, let's go on. We have the right level, and I continue here with my blue EQ. It's a gorgeous sounding EQ, and what I've done is I've figured out that the root note of the whole track is F, and I have dialed in here to F. So when I move around with this guy in the frequency range and I hit the F, bam, then it's at the right frequency. I just want to push it a little bit. I wanted to have a big warm round bass, so I also supported 22, which is the lower octave of this F basically. What else? So this is the mid-range area, which is important to cut through. I wanted to support the vocal a little bit, and the chop. The chop is the check in the reggae, right? And here the 7K band provides a little bit more speech comprehensibility of the vocal, and that is it. Let me play a little bit of it with and without. So I can use this button here. So without. This area supports the chop and a little bit of the vocal. And this a little bit of the speech comprehensibility. And you can see that the bass gets a little bit richer. It's just one small step to the whole aim here. Probably to give you an idea how I make my decisions, I often sit here and close my eyes actually when I listen, because then I can really focus on looking at the virtual stage, and I try to percept what I hear, who is where is potential space. And when I listen to the mix, I can hear that this area is pretty filled, which means the highs are good represented, the higher mids are good represented, but then here is a little bit of space, and then here's the bass, and this lack of this area creates a little bit detachment, so I need to make the bass a little bit bigger and to compress it a little bit. So the aim is basically to use the whole space and to make it sound bigger, but stick to the original intention of a good mix. So this is mastering. Mastering is not so much fixing things we haven't done in the mix. It's more like this, what I just said. Okay. Then I need I do a little thing here, and due to the lack of analog hardware, usually I use analog hardware to create a little bit of 3D-ishness. As I don't use analog hardware here, I use the case stereo, and it's also available on the UAD platform. However, I just play you without and with. It creates a little bit depth and 3D-ishness. It's very easy to overdo that, so be careful with it. And I have enhanced the side signal by 0.4 dB. Be always careful with this mid-side craziness and this stereo spreading bullshit. It's done way too much. Most of the time we're ending up in non-mono-compatible things, and I have constructed this. So MART is basically Mastering Academy audio tools. I have constructed this tool here to have an easier time to figure out whether we go too far or not. It's a multiband correlation meter, and we don't want to exceed this 90-degree line and keep in the green area everything. So you can see that it creates a subtle bit of depth without destroying the stereo integrity or without destroying the mono compatibility, if you will. Let me overdo the side thing and you can instantly see what happens.
Disfruta DJ, si por ti nena vida, sorry cuide, mama, mama, mama.
Okay, so what you can see is we get into the red area when we have things which go into the red area. We hit the mono button to check what is disappearing. When too much information is disappearing, then we can't do that, period. So that's pretty simple as a checking tool. Then I use as a substitute for my gorgeous PureMove compressor, the hardware version, I use the software version of the 670 Fairchild, and it creates quite some subtle depth. The aim here is not to make the needle dance like crazy, it's just to kiss the needle and period, not more, not less. We do that.
Nena vida, disfruta DJ, si por ti nena vida, sorry cuide, mama, mama, mama.
Can you hear that? It's yeah, becoming a little bit more 3D. It works quite great, this tool, for this aim. So then I have used a subtle, yeah, it's a little bit of fresh cell cure for the transients. I mean, the transients are quite in a good shape here, but I wanted to make it a little bit more, this this reggae vibe. I wanted to support that. And I have a positive ratio of 0.09. And this overshoot value says that I support transients which are longer than as long as 5.55 milliseconds. So this is basically defines the length of the transient. So, and when I hit it on and off, just listen to the check, check. What's happening? I start without. Where am I here?
Disfruta DJ, si por ti nena vida, sorry cuide, mama, mama, mama.
It gives quite a nice subtle support for the transients before I go into the compression. So the compression may compromise the transients a little bit, so I really want to have them in a good shape before I hit into the compression. Be super careful with these things. You can see by the choice of my ratio plus 0.09, it's, if I would go like plus 0.2, I would drive it nuts. It would not work. It would really overdo the whole thing. So tiny steps are the key when the mix is in a good shape here. So we can probably do an intermediate comparison by just using the smart bypass. Let me just play a loop here, and I first need to update gain. It's super interesting. It's already this little treatment fills the space here a little bit, and the stage is getting bigger already. You need to crank up, unfortunately, because this tool needs to control the level down. Basically, my processing is now dialed down by almost 7 dB, which is because the limiter added 4 dB and the EQ added probably 1 dB and blah 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 blah, and 7 dB is quite a lot. However, close your eyes and just look with your ears to the stage when I totalize start with original, and here we go. You can see it goes into the right direction here with the mastering process. So now we come to tape simulator. There are many tape simulators. I really need to be, I'm sorry that I don't use the cheapest tools on the market. More expensive tools are sometimes more expensive for a good reason, because they are good. But in my case, it's like I have them, I know them, and this is even more important. I know them. Even if I would use, for the sake of this thing, cheaper tools, A, I don't have them, B, I need time to wrap my head around it and to understand them, to squeeze something good out of them. So for the sake of time and efficiency, I need to use the tools I know best, basically. So let me bypass this tape machine. And what will the tape machine do? I used 456 tape. I used it all my life when I worked with tape, so I know them pretty well, and they are nice to the bass, etc. What's going to happen is that the bass area will become richer and a little bit more three-dimensional. And yeah, then I picked 15 inch per second because 15 inch per second is nicer for a tiny analogish highs roll off to make the highs sound softer, and to create a little bit of tape saturation. And this tape saturation creates this 3D-ishness and richness in the bass area. Let me play it. Yeah, so amazing, right? So let me probably play another chunk here to give you another chance. Sorry for the level jump. It's simply when I close this smart bypass, it jumps up 7 dB. You have your hand at the volume control. Let me again switch it on and off. I start with off. It sounds great, for my opinion. And it's not the only tape simulation which works that great. There are many, so don't get frustrated. Just try your own on that. And this is a general property of tape simulation, that the bass gets usually richer and more three-dimensional. So I in my real life, I don't use many software compressors except when I'm mixing. And thus, I needed to find a nice replacement for my gorgeous outboard gear to show you what outboard gear can do. And I got along this P11 Abyss compressor. It's quite a sophisticated beast of gear. It's 10, 20 compressors in one box. So it can give you everything from a Fairchild, from a Pure Mu to an SSL thing, and an SSL bus compressor. And you can see here the preset I've used and altered is from an SSL bus compressor because I wanted to have this SSL bus compression flavor. And what I've done, the beauty about software is, particularly when it's not one-to-one model to the hardware, I can pick a very low ratio. So the lowest ratio on the original SSL bus compressor is, I think, 2-to-1, and some come along with 1.5-to-1. And in the real world of mastering, we usually often go even lower. So here I'm at 1.42-to-1, which is quite a low ratio. I dialed in a little bit of soft knee. My attack time is at 45 milliseconds, so that I keep the transients alive. So the release is basically important to adjust it to the pace of the song and to avoid pumping and to find a sweet spot where it nicely snaps, basically. Here we have a low cut of the side chain signal at 85 Hertz and in second order, which means a low cut of 12 dB per octave. The aim of the low cut is basically to avoid that mainly the bass would drive the compression. So the bass makes the majority of the energy. And you don't want to make the bass drive the compressor all the time. In mastering and for bus compression, it's the aim to unify everything, and by cutting away a little bit of bass, and 80 Hertz is quite, or 85 Hertz is quite a nice area to cut so much away that there's enough bass left so that it drives the compression a little bit, but not completely, not alone. So the purpose of mastering single band compression is to create unity and to wrap a tape about your loose package to make it to give it this mastering feel, basically. What else is here? We have a clipper, which just you can see that here, very gently pops in just when the very loud things come up here, this little tom strokes, etc. Then the clipping pops in a little bit. And then we have a little bit of saturation, which is also the case in the world of hardware compressors, because they all come with transformers, and the variety of transformer would give you different flavor and saturation, basically harmonics, that kind of stuff. Let me play it. I start with off and then I toggle it on.
Cantica aquí pa' mi mamá, pa' escuchar en mi voz cuánto me estimé. Ta dedica y cantica aquí pa' mi mamá, pa' escuchar en mi voz cuánto me estimé.
Can you hear how tight it is all of a sudden? This is mastering compression. And I must say, I'm super excited about the quality of this compression. But I need to say, if you want to dig into that, you need to take a little bit of time to get to know it. It's a beast where you can do almost everything in mixing and mastering with. but you need to learn it a little bit, and you need to learn to understand it and handle it. Anyway, so at the end of the chain, we've got the limiter, and the limiter is plus 6 dB. So be aware, now it's getting 6 dB louder. And you can see, in this case of the FabFilter Pro L, I always use look ahead. You always want to do that, because look ahead avoids THD plus N, so total harmonic distortion plus noise. It's if you don't have overhead, it creates a whole mess of distortion down at, I don't know, you can measure that. I don't have it in my mind, however. I don't want to have that, so I use full throttle look ahead, and I use the transparent mode. I have an output ceiling of 0.3 dB. I don't like to hit the ceiling. I want to be careful and have a little bit of distance to the ceiling. I have 8 times oversampling, and that's it. So be aware of 6 dB more loudness. And yeah, I'm gonna play it. Okay, now we need a fair A/B comparison of before and after. I need to update gain, and when I do so, now it's getting 6 or 7 dB lower. I think it's going to be quite more from the starting point, from my source file here, probably minus 10, 12, something like that. So be aware that you need to crank up your monitor.
Mitad dedica y cantica aquí pa' mi mamá, pa' escuchar en mi voz cuánto me estimé. Mitad dedica y cantica aquí pa' mi mamá, pa' escuchar en mi voz cuánto me estimé. Mi mamá, mi mamá.
So can you hear that the whole stage is used, and it's snapping, it's grooving. The master is basically the same as the mix. It's just grooving a little bit more. The stage is used. We have a little bit more depth, but everything basically remains the same in terms of balance, etc. So this is the idea about mastering.
Mitad dedica y cantica aquí pa' mi mamá, pa' escuchar en mi voz cuánto me estimé. Mitad dedica y cantica aquí pa' mi mamá, pa' escuchar en mi voz.
So we are living now at approximately, I can't tell exactly, approximately minus 12 LUFS integrated. So now if I would play, and I will, you need to definitely pull down your headphone or whatsoever monitoring level. And we can have a quick look here and see how loud we are. So let me play it.
No, 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 macaí en abismo, suela bom, pain cabo man de mi man, y lanta mi be, es un dulce amor, da amor de mamá. Amigo na, por traicionar, pero mamá no.
So integrated, we are going to end up at minus 12.5-ish or something in that area. And this is perfectly nice for radio. So it would sound on the radio way better than a version at minus 10 LUFS, for example. It's great for CD. When you want to have it for CD, you can squeeze out a little bit more. This would be not a big deal. but I like the airiness of the whole thing, and it's a very relaxed music, and if it's getting too overcompressed and limited, it's getting a little bit nasty, and it's psychoacoustically it's not any longer so relaxing. Yeah, that's it about our first episode here, and I look forward for the next one. So the whole thing may change a little bit. So for the first show, I wanted to give you an introduction into the workflow of mastering and what to look at, etc. But from the submission of mixes and productions we've worked through, I've seen that there are a whole lot other challenges and problems on a more on a mixing level, and I'm not 100% sure what I'm going to do in the next show, but I probably gonna pick 2 songs or 1 or 2 songs and just listen to that with you and give you some feedback on what to look at, what is wrong, what do you need to change in the mixing stage. Because the idea of mixing elevator is basically to elevate your mix to be mastering ready so that you can make the next steps in mastering. And I see from the amount of mixes which are actually not mastering ready in the typical classical professional sense, I would like to help you to fix your mixes and get an idea what is needed to do, basically. Yay! Thank you very much for being here, and you may want to have a look on our website, mastering-academy.com, and yeah, feel free to reach out to us when you want to get to know more about our work. Stay tuned.